It's just chaos. Anything could happen. Pull a card for us, Pete. Show it. The Jack of Spades. It must be war. It must be war.
Well, you can't predict what's already happening.
Well, sometimes tarot does just tell you what's already going on. It already tells you what's already going on.
Is this actually a war-related card?
Yes, it can be. Can be, yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
What about it?
It depends on which tarot deck you're using, but I think if you use the Osho deck, it's the most aggressive. The Osho tarot, it's the most aggressive indicator of like a man who's ready to go off at any moment and go completely buck wild. And he's like a knight with swords, and he's got this angry face, and he's covered in buttons all over his armor, so it's easy to trigger him.
Damn, son. Speaking of which, have you been following up with this whole situation? I've been kind of like dropped out a tiny bit. What are the updates here?
The latest is Putin. This is all what I've gathered through through just listening to the media. Putin said to the Prime Minister of Finland, I think it was, that he would be happy to just take the Donbass. Yeah. And he would go no further. And Zelensky today made an announcement today, he said, I know we're not going to be able to join NATO. I'll publicly sign any agreement that says we're never going to join NATO. And that is a good sign. That's an indication that we can start to maneuver towards peace and stability. The other thing is Putin also said he wouldn't seek regime change. So he's not going to kill Zelensky imprison, not kill, disappear, unalive.
This is weird. Why so quickly?
Because it's a goddamn mess. I mean, it's an absolute mess. I know that the edgelords who swing off Putin's nutsack will say that it's not true, but it's clearly the case that a mistake has been made here. They were talking about a 40-mile long convoy. Yes, another word for that 40-mile long convoy is a traffic jam. Soldiers running out of fuel, they're running out of supplies. If you have 40 miles of trucks going in a line towards one city, what's going to happen when they all arrive? There isn't like a giant parking lot, and they're getting smashed to bits with anti-tank equipment, which is it's shoulder held by one dude at a time, and they can just obliterate a tank. They're also getting drone strikes when they're stuck in this quagmire. So the Ukrainians are taking casualties, but the Russians are taking way heavier casualties than they predicted. I mean, they really thought this would be over in 3 days. So it's a quagmire. So Putin realizes it's a quagmire. He's hiring like mercenaries to come and help. That's how desperate he is. This idea of a 1.3 million ready to combat Russian army apparently was a fallacy that we all believed in. So he's now using Chechens and Syrians to back up his army. Zelensky on the other side knows that he thought this would be an opportunity to join the EU, and people believe that, and we never had any intention. So both sides have been played, I think, personally, by the West.
I see.
Yeah, we tricked them both.
So both desired outcomes from both sides are definitely not playing out, because whatever the achieved or the attempted achieved goal is nowhere near what that would be. So both of them just have to be like, okay, well, fuck this. Because I imagine the Russian side didn't imagine a lot of the sanctions that came down and the economic crash that cut at least more than half on top of that. So it's almost as if they do take over a bit of Ukraine, it's like, what do they have to work with in the end? Just nothing at all.
Yeah, no, it's I think we have to, like, culturally, we have to get over a couple of tropes and some cliches. Like the idea from James Bond movies going back to the 70s and earlier of like Russia is the big bad enemy that's going to fucking take over everything. And if you saw the American movie Red Dawn with Patrick Swayze.
I haven't. No.
Yeah, there's American insurgents who fight against the Russian invasion. It's a good movie. It's worth checking out. We got to get over that. We got to get over the idea of cold as ice Russians. They're all chess players, ultra masculine soldiers of death. It's nonsense. It's not. They're people. They're fucking people, and they're not. They don't want this either. The actual soldiers and even their officer class don't want this. The Russian people don't want this. They're not high level, super intelligent, super tough chess players thinking 5 steps ahead. It's obvious that this is the case now. So people have to just get over it. They're not our big enemy. We need to, I personally would like to see 2 things happen with the Putin regime. Big stick, big stick, and just be like, listen, but he's had the big stick now, and now an ally. He's a nutcase. He's a horrible man, but Russia is Russia, and there it is. Russia remains where it is. It's not like it's going to float off into the ether. And we should invite him to the table at this point. Just say, okay, that's it. We're going to stop treating Russia like a bad guy because it encourages them to act like bad guys. For the Ukrainians, we should have never given them any hope that they were joining the EU when we knew perfectly well they weren't, and never have dangled the idea of NATO. It's not possible. It's just not possible. It's not about democracy and utopia and rights and sovereignty. It's not strategically possible in the age that we live in. In 100 years' time, review. But right now, there's just no way. And we knew all this. We in the West, we knew all this. And so I think we've played both sides. And I'm tending, and maybe I've gone too far here, but I tend to assume whatever the result we have today is probably the result that we were looking for.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot there. I think in the end, I don't think we've had a discussion about this specific subject on this podcast, but we've mentioned on this podcast multiple times the battle between mastermind Illuminati regime and agenda or complete incompetence. What is the true ruler of the current situation of everything? And more events that keep happening, it goes to show that most of this stuff has a high level of incompetence. Because idealistically, I would imagine, because if I was Putin's mother, I would know Putin so well. And me being Putin, I would think that with my giant landmass of a country and the military and the history that came with it, that I can just like push 3 buttons and I could take over any neighboring country in 2 seconds. Well, obviously that's not the case here at all. And even on the other side of like, they did a really good job resisting, but at the same time, there's like a lot of sloppiness in between the whole political discharge here that goes to show in other events that have happened in the last 2 years, every political dynamic or crisis or situation has been the result of extreme incompetence, not so much of a mastermind plan.
Yeah, and I find it weirdly reassuring. Like that the whole thing, this is a conversation whenever I speak to Richard Willett, who we've had on here, whenever I speak to Potent, who we've had on here, Potent the Rockstar, we always end up talking about the sliding scale of intentionality. How much of this is chess player, Illuminati, conspiracy? God knows it happens. I do not deny that. And how much of this is just stupid, jaded, fragile humans who've wormed and killed and bribed their way into positions of power? They're no better than me and you. They're no better than anybody in the chat. Their asshole hurts. They've got a bad IBS. Their left eye is gunky. Their finger, I don't know. They're trapped in a flesh suit like we are. They have moods. They go up. They go down. They have their perceptions. They have their emotional dysregulation. We all have this shit. It's part of the nature of being human. They live in this reality. They don't live in some foreign reality, an alien world. And we got to wrap our heads around this. It's childish and disempowering to believe that everything is part of some planned conspiracy. However, despite all the incompetence and everything you just mentioned, I do think it's pretty easy to make the case, and maybe I'd even do a video making the case, that the West, America really, caused this. They caused this to happen. They deliberately provoked Putin into doing something that he should not have done. He shouldn't have done this. It's not a question of whether he has rights there, whether people speak Russian there, it doesn't matter. He shouldn't, for himself, for Russia, for his own legacy, for his own objectives. This was an error. And anybody who at this point is like, yeah, it's all still going according to plan, I'd be like, wow, yeah, completely destroying your reputation at the global level and sending your country into decades long, economic suicide, a death spiral. Yeah, that was part of his plan. Grow the fuck up. This is clearly a mess. It's clearly a mistake. They really, really underestimated the Ukrainians, and they underestimated the West.
Yeah.
I think the West knew. They wanted to savage Russia economically, and now they have the justification to do that, and they're doing it. Russia is being savaged economically right now, savaged. And they're now, even in the UK, finally they're targeting the oligarchs here.
Yes. Yeah. Again, there's a lot there, but I mean, I've been watching videos, or I've seen a few videos of a pretty famous Russian YouTuber who actually knows of me, but he's going through the hardest time at a ground level observation of what Russia's going through economically at the moment. Yeah. I mean, there are lines and lines at the banks just to get to one ATM in the building, and the security guards are just kicking people out because they're actually legitimately running out of cash to withdraw to people.
Okay.
So people are trying to get foreign currencies and stuff, and they don't even have it in the store or whatever.
Yeah, stop being brainwashed by CNN. This is all part of the plan. This is all part of Putin's plan. I mean, I hear this shit from people online every day. I'm like, are you insane? You really think Putin wants this for his own country? There's just there's no way. They dramatically underestimated what the West would do. And I think that, like last week, I don't know whether we said it here or we were talking personally, the West's response has been very swift, economically speaking, and very robust and very unified. A very, very unified, robust response.
Yeah. The YouTuber in the comment, oh, he's not in the comments, but his name is No Fuckers, but it's just a bunch of consonants here.
Okay.
But yeah, it's pretty insane to see the situation at a socially ground level, because they're really, really screwed. Like, this dude can't withdraw any of his YouTube money. He has no way of people trying to send over money to help him out. The entire country of just complete civilians are messed up forever now. It's insane.
I had to pay Max a lump sum rapidly with urgency. Max, who does the video editing for me on Instagram, as we got closer and closer to date where they were going to just cut the SWIFT system off. The SWIFT system is how we pay via international boundaries. And I was like, Max, you're panicking. They're not going to do that. They fucking well have done it. They fucking well did do it. I don't think the way it's being reported in the West, I don't think people realize how deep in Russia's ass we are right now. We are all the way in.
Because a lot of this geopolitical stuff is easily lost in the sauce because all the terminologies and the political histories that you have to know. Yeah. But I would highly recommend, if you look up in the comments, No Fuckers, just look up at this guy. He's just a Russian YouTuber. So at a ground level, he explains how every sanction is affecting his everyday life with just normal company situations and things to do, like food lines, like fucking bank lines, all of this shit. Like the PayPal fucking removed themselves, the SWIFT got cut off. They have to, did you hear that they actually have to exchange, I think 80% of whatever income they have to rubles?
No, I did not hear that.
Yeah. I could get the percentage wrong, but they are required to exchange whatever income they have internationally to the ruble, which is officially basically crashed and worth nothing.
Well, some people call it a logical fallacy, but it's actually a way of determining. Sometimes it's an effective way of determining who was the perpetrator of a crime, which is to ask cui bono, which means who benefits from this. Mm-hmm. So problem, reaction, solution, the Hegelian dialectic. We've ended up with an economically screwed Russia. Britain's going in and sweeping up billions of pounds worth of property and reclaiming it from Russian oligarchs who've had a great time here for 20, 25 years. And I'm just looking at this going, this looks like a nice bit of judo. Funny thing is, Putin is a judo player, but he didn't see this sacrifice throw coming. No. And I'm sort of sat back and I'm wondering, like, people talk about the Russia-China relationship. And I'm thinking, surely if he had a stronger relationship with China, they would have warned him that this was a trap. I know that this could get me in a lot of trouble, but I really feel like I'm not a fan of his. I think that he fell for a ruse, and now he's trapped. He's completely trapped. He was provoked into a rash, illogical, ill-conceived decision, and he's trapped. And I don't see a way out. You know what could happen in the next 5 years? This whole thing of, oh, help Ukraine, help the Ukrainians, send money, send that could be help Russia, help Russians in the next 3 years.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, it's so easy to just skew everybody collectively to help out whatever helped who.
Yeah.
You know, it's so simple to just turn things completely nationalistic and borderline racist to any following crisis that's happening now. It's unbelievable how fast it fucking works, man. I swear to God, I've actually been outside. Surprisingly, that's not the surprising part, but
it is. But go on.
taking a 5-minute walk around here, I see Ukrainian flags plastered on trams, on stores, on closed down spur banks, those Russian banks. Graffiti.
He said spur bank, not
sperm
bank.
Probably those two.
Closed down sperm banks.
Those two for sure. No Russian sperm there for sure. But like the stores are graffitied all over. So they're just kind of like cut. They literally saw cut Russia from Swift within the abandoned windows. And even just the other day, I saw spray painted on the back of a truck, just fuck Russians. It's fucking crazy how this shit happened overnight here, man. Yeah, and I can only imagine what the fuck's going to happen when the sun comes out a bit more and the hormones get raging out here, you know?
I hope it's resolved before then. I am disgusted, really, really embarrassed to be a human, and disgusted by the attitude that has sprung up towards Russians. Like, what do you mean? Who are you talking about? Do you know how fucking big that country is? Do you know how many different cultures there are within that massive land?
I mean,
Russians.
It's just the people that comment serves them right. The fuck, bro?
Yeah, some poor family living in a fucking block of flats in St. Petersburg. Fuck them. I'm glad they can't get fuel.
Do you realize a huge percentage of the people that live in that country are just abused daily, economically and politically, bro? Yes. And just to be like, they deserve it. Dude, the guy, I'm gonna just keep shouting him out because he's a really, really good dude, and I really like his content. No fuckers. He gets comments of like, well, see, that's what happens. See, what did you expect? And it's just like he fucking chose this? Really?
I'm so sorry to do the reductio ad Hitlerum thing and talk about the Nazis, but do you remember how people spoke about the Jews, you know, when they were being attacked by the well, if they hadn't hoarded all that money, if they hadn't done all that blood sacrifice, it's like, what the fuck is that? Person's your accountant, that person's your dentist, that person's your friend from the bar. What are you talking about? Mm-hmm. But here we are again. History repeats, and all these wonderful, virtuous people are saying, fuck you, Russia, and fuck you, Russians. Thanks, guys. We really see the depth of your virtue.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, looking back at the other past 13 marginalized groups to point fingers at here, I think for a bit of time, you know, we can talk about the title, like the cancel culture, whatever stuff. It's like kind of loosely based on an ideology that you have, and if it's the right political idea that you might side with. But I think this one is very different because it's siding nationalistically for a military operation.
Yes.
That's the difference. It's not like canceled Jeffree Star and Shane Dawson.
No.
You know, it's this is a country with guns and tanks, and you have to wear the flag that supports nuking the fuck out of the other guy.
Yeah.
That's a huge difference, man.
So we always said it's not 1984. It's never going to be Brave New World. We always said it would be Idiocracy. It's becoming Idiocracy meets Starship Troopers.
Yes.
So they'd have to make Starship Troopers, but everybody in it is really fucking retarded.
Did I send you the comment that somebody actually mentioned Starship Troopers on my recent video? But yeah, if you want to like basically explain the circumstances of the movie, it's you're basically not considered a good person or a civilian if you haven't served in the military, right?
It's Paul Verhoeven's. I think Paul Verhoeven did a few films about America, which I'm not going to be able to remember. It'll come back to me later. I don't think he's ever visited, but he's made these films that sort of criticize American culture from the outside as a European, and this was one of them. Correct me in the comments if it wasn't Paul Verhoeven, but he saw this ultra patriotic, ethnocentric, xenophobic, fascist militant state where your only significance was as a warrior, as a soldier, as a person in uniform. It was fascist, and it was sort of unigender. Men and women, they joined the Marines, or they joined the Air Force, or they joined the Navy. They camp together, they bed together, they shower together, and they fight side by side. And it's the jingoism, it's the patriotism in Starship Troopers, which is a good movie. It's well worth watching. I've seen it a couple of times. It's kill the enemy, kill, mindlessly, thoughtlessly. The more you kill, the better it is. The more injured you are killing the enemy, and the more medals you can come back with, and like bionic arms and bionic legs, because it's a sci-fi, it's set in the future, the better, the stronger, the harder everybody gets over it. And people say, you know, oh, this is an unreasonable criticism by a European of a culture who doesn't understand. Or it was a vision of the future. I mean, we're there now. The same people who said, put your damn masks on and do as you're damn well told and get your jabs and stay at home, are now saying, fly this flag and go kill the enemy within 2 weeks. Like, they just went, think, okay, we're on to the next thing now.
I mean, it's literally, they say, I've seen this, then let them starve. They deserve it.
You've seen that?
Yeah, like because it looks like they're gonna starve now. Serves them right.
Them. Like, who is them? What the fuck? They've had no democracy in the country since that man took over. Since Gangster Daddy took over in '98 or something. He's been there for a lot. He might have been there for like 25 years. How is it their fault? How the fuck? They have extreme poverty issues. On the global extreme poverty index, they're at 13% of their population lives in extreme poverty. Get a grip, guys, for God's sake.
Yeah, man.
They're not aliens. They're not aliens to be zapped. My God.
You know, I was trying to. I briefly looked over your last stream just to see if I can get any ideas to kind of bounce off of before we started the stream today. And you know, you went off of the amount of propaganda that's been going on and the swaying of pulling emotional triggers to move people in a certain way.
Yeah.
Dude, I was thinking about how often that would happen before. And in my lifetime, it was maybe just once, was 9/11.
Right.
The same kind of pattern of like giant crisis, media flooding, hysteria, push the next agenda, flood around the fucking flags all around everybody's, you know, white picket fence lawn or whatever, and everything changes culturally. That happened like once for a long period of time. You still see even remnants of it. In the last 2 years, they accelerated this specific process and have repeated it, probably in the double digits by now. It's the same type of formatting and the same emotional, hysterical reactions with the same, what do you call it? Agenda pushing outcome.
Yes.
But different content multiple times.
Yes.
They're getting real confident, man.
Oh, it's cocky. It's getting a little bit sloppy. To explain, I know that you know it, the Hegelian dialectic, problem, reaction, solution. What happens is there is a crisis, and then the population has this huge emotional surge, and then just imagine like a vat of emotion splitting at the seams, and then as it's splitting at the seams and they're demanding action, You come along with solution and go, 9/11 happened by Muslims. Muslim terrorists did that. What the? Ah! You know what we could do? We could invade Afghanistan. What's Afghanistan got to do with that? We think the person who masterminded 9/11 is hiding in a cave in Afghanistan. Bomb Afghanistan! Invade! Kill them all! It was dumb as fuck. Do you know that I may have told you this before, Osama bin Laden never made the FBI's most wanted list for 9/11 because of a lack of sufficient evidence. So the same country that threw trillions trillions at the invasion of Afghanistan, their own federal policing force, their own Federal Bureau of Investigation looked into it and went, we don't see anything that links Osama bin Laden to 9/11. He never made the most wanted list for a lack of evidence. But we went because stop being unpatriotic. We're going and off they go because of the fucking sheer amount of emotion behind it. And then Iraq came soon afterwards. Why? Well, Middle East, Muslims, kind of the same. Regime change, weapons of mass destruction. It could happen again, Can we see the evidence of the weapons of mass destruction? Stop being so unpatriotic. Off we go. And we go and cause a mess in there as well. Putin should have watched. He should have learned. You don't just invade another country and go, oh, we have superior technology. We have the radios. We have smart bombs. Yeah, and guess what? When human beings know their own terrain and they're fighting for their lives, they're actually quite hard to kill. And they can actually deliver quite a lot of damage. We got our asses handed to us in Afghanistan and Iraq. Nobody wants to talk about it, but we got our fucking asses handed to us over there. Sorry, I'm on a rant today. I just came from the gym. You might be able to tell.
Yeah, you've been a little spicy. I'm like,
sorry.
Okay,
let me calm the fuck down.
No, it's good. It's good. I can't provide the energy today, so it's all you today. But yeah, I mean, so it's almost as if the first modern psyop, media propaganda psyop, being 9/11. I mean, there was versions of it before, but I think in the most modern sense, the last one was 9/11, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh shit, that worked really well. 2020,
we made a lot of money.
Yeah, let's prepare for the next few. But if there is an agenda pushing kind of mastermind situation, it would be along the lines of media information handling and propaganda pushing. Now, the question is if the outcome is the exact desired outcome of what they're looking for.
Well, yeah, and that's a good question. So the elephant in the room is, are they still pushing? Are they still? Let's just ask. Are they pushing for a hot war? Are they pushing to actually put boots on the ground and do regime change in Russia?
Yeah. So
somebody must have thought of it. Somebody must have at least diddled themselves over the idea.
You know what? My hypothesis here is that the agenda is being done correctly if you look at the desired outcome to be on a smaller scale, which is having as many eyes on your program or on your smaller agenda for potentially monetary purposes or shilling or getting government funding for your particular message to be put out there. And if that's the desired outcome, then yeah, the agenda is working. But in terms of like a big master plan, I'm not really sure there.
I think some people must have considered the benefits of, I mean, my God, it's like a wet dream, quite honestly, in terms of global supremacy. If you could have a Western friendly puppet government in Russia, it would be amazing. But forget about it. Like, just let it go, man. That shit ain't gonna happen. That shit ain't gonna happen. Well, we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna go into Russia. No. And I think nobody should be pushing for that, which is why when we discussed British soldiers going over to Ukraine, as much as I applaud the sentiment, if they're going naively, then I applaud the sentiment. They want to protect what they perceive like it's innocent people. We've got to protect them. Fine, I get it. But my personal thing would be any movement towards the West or Westerners going over to fight with Russians really needs to be pushed back against very, very hard. You know me, I'm not for demonstrations and protests and all that, but we the people must not let that happen. We can't let that happen. That would be criminal at this point. We'd have no excuse. We know too much. We know too fucking much now. We don't know anything. The last time we re-invaded Iraq for Iraq War II, we knew there was huge protests everywhere globally, but we have no excuse now to let it happen again. So I would say to people like, you know, you've got to gird up your loins on this one. Anybody, if it looks like they're pushing for hot war, we really, really have to push back against that as hard as we can.
You know, remember we've talked about the situation before and you predicted a war, maybe not with these specific countries, but you did predict one. And I was more on the skeptical end of things because of the pure globalization, the globalized state of everything, and how economies are directly linked to every other country with the social media, and everything's linked directly.
Yes.
Which is why I think, financially and so many other things like
we can't have World War I again.
No, because they're not insulated countries with insulated economies anymore. Everything is bridged off of everything else, which is why I think like a country like China is like, Putin, you're doing it old school, bro.
I would be amazed if China was happy with what you're saying. I'm sure China must be like, dude, calm the fuck.
China's like, yo, we got this. Like, we're destabilizing their economy in the West, like easy right now. Like, bro, don't make it so fucking obvious, you idiot. Well, you know what I mean?
Once we see just for you and for everybody watching, Russia has been buying up real estate, huge amounts of real estate in the UK, and the UK saying we're taking it back. You know who else has been playing the real estate game in the United Kingdom and all across Europe? China. This could be, we may already be at war with China. And all of this with Russia and Ukraine is kind of a sort of a proxy war between us and the West versus the East.
Dude, it's old school. It's old school, man. We're in post-war times. What is it, like neo-war? Like neo-combat. It's not so much hot war. Hot war is like fucking like old school as hell, because nowadays with the globalized state of everything, and like look at how the West is combating the situation through sanctions and economic like blockade, like an abstract kind of thing that deals with social media platforms and programs. And, you know, China's like fucking over the West with the manufacturing money and shit like that. Like, you don't need to launch any fucking missiles, man. This is like this is just old school, man. It's not how things were, like, you know, within America in the 70s, where you were just getting fights on the streets because you were bored. You know, people don't get in fights anymore because they're bored. They argue on Twitter. That's the new neo war, man. People just carrying each other on the internet as opposed to like actually throwing hands.
Yeah, it's much more symbolic. Everything has moved towards symbolism. Social media has trained us to believe in the value of symbolism, and as you rightly say, in a globalized world with the blurring of national boundaries and all these financial relationships we have with each other, war naturally will become more symbolic. It will be. It has. It just has to be.
Like, just in the most practical sense, say Putin bombs the fuck out of Russia, bombs the fuck out of Ukraine, and there's barely anything left there. Okay, he just took over a fucking country full of rubble with no infrastructure, no people, no natural resources. There's nothing here.
Yeah.
Why would you do that? Well, just to have your name on empty land?
Yeah, exactly. Which is why as we're discussing all of this, we have to say Russia's doing as badly as it is because it's not prepared to use a certain level of force. I mean, it could just, remember Aliens, nuke it from space. You could just nuke it from space, or you could, whatever the smaller scale equivalent of that is. Yeah, absolutely. And you could just murder everybody. But they went in for regime change. They went in on the premise of, a genocide of the Russian peoples that was taking place in the Donbass and so on and so forth. Putin kept on going about Nazis and swastikas and ultra-nationalists in the Ukraine that were genociding Russians, just like they did in World War II, so on and so forth. I mean, I think I think what we all have to realize, and you just made a Freudian slip, which is the right one. You said if Putin bombs Russia, oops, Ukraine. But wait, we are in that situation. We're in a situation where if I punch you in the face, I bleed. My teeth get knocked out.
Yeah, right.
Because
right.
you know, it's very these days. It's very hard to get away from that because what you had in World War One was very technologically advanced, but effectively tribes of people who were completely separate. Like if you were British, you were British. If you were Prussian, you were Prussian. If you were Bosnian, that was and that was it. You were your country, that was your culture, and that was it. It doesn't fucking work in the age of TikTok and Instagram and YouTube. No. There's no way, man. There's just no way.
Exactly. So in the most practical sense, you look at what China's doing, and it's like, why would you just bomb the fuck out of the West as China and then have nothing to work with when you have an alternative way to take over, which is develop the most psychologically addicting app that can literally just feed horse shit to the entire mass, which not only demoralizes them and just fucking fucks with them emotional regulation, but also suck the fuck out of the money out of that country as well.
Yeah.
When that's an option in the current age of now, it makes so much more sense to use a place's strengths or what they are against them as opposed to just nuking it into obliteration.
Oh, absolutely. It would be now that you mention it, I've heard of this. I was on the fringes of organized crime here in Liverpool, and the old school were constantly complaining that over time, from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and wherever it is up to now, it became less and less about guys just having a straightener, or you just go and you just shoot your enemy, or you just go and knife them up or something, or you sort out the cobbles. It's not, and that got more and more towards paying each other off and swapping information, and a lot more people started turning informant. You've got CCTV cameras everywhere. Every fucker's carrying a mobile phone. Everybody can record your audio or film you while you're doing anything. And it's really, I think that microcosmically is reflected at the macrocosmic level. You just don't get away with it now.
Yeah, no, totally.
You can't just do, I mean, imagine how different the world was in World War One. If you went to war, you wouldn't be worried that somebody caught you on camera doing a war crime. It was like,
well, I mean, think about it like this, man. In another micro level, at the most casual social perspective, it's like, how many fights have stopped because of the potential iPhone that might record you and you get posted on TikTok? Fights obviously still do happen when people lose their shit, but I highly believe that nowadays a lot of fights don't happen because of the potential of you being recorded, losing your job, your family sees it.
Oh no, it's changed. I mean, when I go back to security work, I know that I'm going to struggle with this because it's changed people's attitudes. And I can see, I was out in London last weekend, and I can just see there's like a level of cockiness now where people will say and do things that they wouldn't have previously done because you're not going to punch them in the jaw. Right. You're not going to ruin your life by smashing somebody's fucking face in. Right. So what are you going to do? And you get to say it back, by the way. It's mutual. You can go up to total strangers and call them a cunt as well. It's mutual. It's not just one way. And it's weird. It's changed the culture around violence. But as above, so below. The street level of violence is reflected at the state level as well.
Let's go into that. That is a microcosm. That's a microcosmic scale of why hot war with tanks and missiles won't be as popular. It'll still happen as much as ground level gang fights. But how many fucking Karen videos do you come across, and how people these days they avoid conflict by both of them like at a stare down as if they both have handguns, but it's iPhones, and they're just provoking the fuck out of each other, holding a camera, waiting for the next person to swing, but they both don't, because they both know that there is a heavy repercussion if one of them decides to act out. And then it forces you to behave better, so you try to look like the better person who isn't doing the provoking and whatever else. So that's like the level of abstraction in terms of conflict.
Absolutely. There's multiple levels of abstraction, multiple levels now of symbology in conflict. The whole attitude and sense around what it means to deal with conflict as a man has completely changed. Like the sort of the pride of not reporting somebody, of getting punched by somebody, and you don't tell the police, and then you punch the fuck out of them. But now that's not that. They're like, oh, you've marked me, got you. And I'm like, what? What is this? What is wrong with you?
Yes. Even another microcosmic example is 6ix9ine, the rainbow-haired SoundCloud rapper, where, like you said before, the machismo of old school gang culture would say never snitch, or else you're fucking dead, you're a rat, whatever. You cannot snitch, no, regardless of what. You cannot tell the authorities or whatever. 6ix9ine was one of the most played and famous SoundCloud rappers at one point, and he's famous for snitching and working with the feds and outing everyone there. So now there's clout and reputation points awarded to this new form of conflict.
The stunning thing about 6ix9ine's case is when he came back, he had a smash hit straight away.
Yes.
What the hell was it called?
Oh,
I remember one of the lines are you dumb, stupid, or dumb?
Yeah.
I'm going to catch you at the chicken shack with the chocolate and make you dance bachata. But he was bragging that he doesn't fight. He's like, bitch, I don't box. I'm just going to shoot you. I'm like, what? You were just publicly outed as a snitch. And now you're rapping that you won't man up and punch someone and box with them. You'll shoot them from a distance with a machine gun. I hate this world. I hate this world. This is insane. And he's rewarded for it. Everybody loved it. Everybody pays him. Everybody. I was like, my mind's breaking. I actually quite like that track as well. But that part really, really rubbed me up the wrong way.
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, that's neo-conflict. It's new conflict. It's still unexplored territory, and cancel culture thing is one of the weapons as well. But like this new version of confrontation is very, very prevalent, more prevalent than real life conflict. I mean, I remember seeing that's the least violent time to be alive, but maybe not psychologically.
Yeah, true. You reminded me of like the title of this, which I set up this morning. Did you like the title that I created? It's pretty cool, right?
It's very good. The SEO optimization is on point.
Thanks, man. Thanks. I've been studying from the best. So the reason why I wrote that was I'm seeing a change. I think under these kinds of circumstances, well, the cancel culture mob are now waving flags and promoting nationalists, even if they're right wingers, and even if some of them happen to be neo-Nazis. The cancel culture mob are doing that. I'm like, okay, so the snake really is eating its own tail. If this doesn't shift our attitudes on cancel culture, nothing will. And it is. It's dying.
I'm progressively posting more edgy shit on my Insta story, and I'm actually getting a lot more feedback, like positive feedback to the edgy ones that I thought would cancel me, but actually a lot of people like it more these days. So
I'm glad that you're seeing that same feedback loop that I told you I was saying. It's like you can actually say a lot more now than you even could say 18 months ago.
Yeah, I mean, we've both been getting a little edgier on these podcasts too, to very little pushback.
None. Almost none. I mean, I just think which makes sense. I had this thought in the shower this morning. I was like, you know what? Nobody has a political ideology. We all pretend we do, as though we've rationally chosen a political ideology, whatever it is, whether it's the communism thing, or it's being fascist, or we don't. We just have, it's like our personalities. We talk about our personalities like they're fixed things, and they're not. They're just a series of responses to the environment. Remember I said to you, as soon as the environment changes, you will become what the environment needs you to be. Your hormones shift, your brain chemistry shifts, and you were like, I'd never be a soldier. And I just think, on the balance of all probability, based on everything history teaches us, you probably would rise to the occasion, even if you didn't want to. Even if you're like, fuck this, I don't want to do it, you would just find yourself unconsciously doing shit that you didn't expect to. And I think that's a humbling moment, and we all need to wrap our heads around that. We don't really have political ideologies. We don't really have philosophies. We have beliefs that are convenient in the moment and little.
You know, I was thinking like I don't know where I would put this from, maybe a separate YouTube video or something, but I think a lot of the hysteria that's happening now culturally can be boiled down to just one simple thing. If people are behaving irrationally, just look at where they get the social validation. I'll word it a better way, but
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
social validation these days is probably up there, no, the number one thing. So whatever irrational fucking political ideology is being pushed out, or if a person's behaving within those parameters, just look at where the social validation comes from, and it explains so many irrational behaviors these days.
Dude, you're giving the same advice I give to the victims of narcissistic abuse. When they
Mhm,
don't understand what the narcissist is doing, I say, look at where they're getting their narcissistic supply.
mhm.
Just look at where the narcissistic supply is
Yeah,
coming from. It
yeah,
describes all their behavior. They only care about narcissistic supply. We have hit peak narcissism. So yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Just look at where the social validation is coming from, and you know all that you need to know. And
yeah,
and you know what's cool about that question is when you if a person actually follows through with your advice and does that, they will get very clear and they'll get their hands around the idea, under the plant and into the roots of the idea that you don't have to take them seriously. You've been
yes,
taking people
yeah,
seriously who
yes.
can't wipe their own arseholes
Yeah,
properly.
right, right, and I think the big trap here is if you play within the boundaries of their game and
Yeah,
take their words seriously and
yeah.
point out, "That's illogical because this, but when you said this before," if you zoom out and base that entire frame over social validation,
Yes.
everything makes logical sense.
Which
If you
which
play
is which
within
is
the
advice a
rules.
psychotherapist gave me in 2014 for dealing with narcissists. Sorry,
Okay.
carry on.
Yeah, yeah, but that's basically it. Exactly it. It's if you play with the rules that they give you and you
Yeah.
try to think logically within why they took this position when this position was the same thing that happened here, zoom out just once or twice and just think about where are they getting social validation?
Yeah.
All that makes sense.
Yes. So he would Gary Klein is his name. He calls himself Captain Bastard. He's a very funny guy, but he specialized. I don't know if he still does, but he used to specialize in helping the victims of narcissistic abuse. And he would say, if you play their game, you're going to get fucked
Yeah.
because there's no point. The point is to exasperate you. The point is to piss you off. The point is there is no point. It leads nowhere. They don't have a logical argument. They have a desire. They have a thirst for your attention and to get you angry. And if they do that, they drink it up. They drink it up. They get narcissistic elation from pissing people off. That's how sad they are. That's how fragile and empty and narcissistic these people are. What I would always say is abandon sincere communication with the insincere. If you think somebody's talking to you in bad faith, just block them. Just ignore them. There is no point. They abuse language. They abuse human faith. They abuse interaction. Just give up. Condemn them and give up. Leave them be. Everybody has to start learning to do this now if we're ever going to get past cancel culture. We must ignore these people for the buffoons they are.
Yeah. I don't really see the canceling thing so much these days. I mean, even on both sides, one complaining about cancel culture and the other one's doing it. Doesn't really happen so much anymore from, I guess, what I have seen in general. People are definitely exasperated. But it's just fucking bland, just mediocre these days, man. What did you think of the new Batman? Did you like it or was it not really your thing?
I wanted to say that I hated it, but look, because I even as I was watching the film, I knew that we would have this conversation, and I was like, what
Yeah.
am I going to say to Pierre? I wanted to say that I fucking hated it, but for 3 hours, I was not bored. I was a
Yeah.
little bit bored in some of the romance scenes, but I hate romance
Yeah.
scenes in movies anyway.
Yeah.
That's my
Yeah.
problem. And you know what I find satisfying about that movie is it stayed within its own paradigms in the way that video games do. And it
Right.
even unfolds
Right.
like this what do you call that? The side story of a video game or
The
whatever
side quest.
side quest or the reason why you're in that warehouse killing the zombies is because you went from Atlanta to Idaho to get the Goobity Gar. Like the pacing of it, and at points it was silly and it looked like a video game. The Commissioner Gordon and Bruce Wayne, like one's going, "What do you think happened when Falcone came to the bank?"
Yeah.
Well, it's obvious that he's there with his glasses. Yeah. Well, it's obvious that when Falcone came to the bank, that mean. And there's a lot of that kind of exposition, and I'm like, this really is a video game level of script writing.
I think they actually took. I think one of the directors or whoever said that they took inspiration from some of the games as well.
From Batman games?
Batman games and specifically comics as well. Like it's done as if it's kind of a living comic kind of video game-ish thing. You know what I mean?
I get that, and I got the impression that they were doing like the homage to Arkham Asylum and the darker graphic novels that were for adults, and it was realistic. There's a point where Batman really fucking fucks up and falls on his ass and then has to limp away, and that was the only laugh in the whole film. I couldn't wrap my head around how seriously the film took itself. I mean, this is a guy who dresses up in S&M gear and beats the fuck out of the poorest criminals in the city.
Yeah.
I really was hungering for George Clooney days. George Clooney's fucking Batman.
That's why I like it. It's a more pathetic version of Batman. I liked that. I personally like that.
Yeah, I'm very worried about male heroes, the tendency to show male heroes as pathetic. And I could see the overlap with Daniel Craig's portrayal of James Bond and Robert Pattinson's portrayal of Batman. Sulky. Why are they sulky? Why isn't James Bond I fucking love the ladies, give us a fucking tequila, and then go back to beating people up and saying something cool? No, Daniel Craig was like, the stupid fucking pout for 12 years. Didn't have sex with any of them.
You can't compare that James Bond with this Batman, bro.
I can a little bit. The first thing we see of Robert Pattinson,
that's so different,
when
bro.
The mask is off, is his fucking eye makeup has run,
dude.
And his hair is like this, and then he comes out into the sunlight and he squints, and I'm like, I get it, because he's like a vampire. I get it.
Are you surprised when I say that that's the first Batman that I could relate to?
No, I'm surprised that you related to the slender, sad, emo,
dude.
Running Batman.
He's a doomer emo anti-hero in the movie, man. It's fucking dreary as hell. He's so uncharismatic, and he has no fucking options other than to become an insecure, fucking brutal Batman in order to deal with himself. That's awesome.
And not Robert Pattinson. If Robert Pattinson had been written differently, I believe he could fully pull it off. I know that he refused steroids for the role, and he basically just kept himself. That's fine, we can do that. But why the fuck is that guy putting on a suit and beating people up at night? That guy ain't beating up shit. He's gonna stay at home and cut his arm and write some poetry. And he does poetry in the movie. He's like, I realized that what people need is not an image of vengeance, but an image of hope. I was like, fuck you. Just go and punch someone in the teeth, you spoiled billionaire.
Richard, you're such a contrarian. God damn it. But
I kind of was looking forward to shitting on this because I knew you'd like it. It had like that. You remember The Crow? Of course you remember The Crow, Brandon Lee's movie. Yeah. It had Crow elements in there.
Yes.
But I liked Brandon Lee's Crow. I couldn't quite. Batman is, you can't, The Crow is The Crow. It was great. I loved that character and Brandon Lee's portrayal. I thought Batman in that, Bruce Wayne is an ultra-capitalist dickhead with a load of money, super privileged, who wants to fuck up poor people. It's a class war thing. He doesn't go after white-collar criminals and bankers. He goes after crackheads and he punches them in the face until their teeth fall out.
That's a really good point. I mean, how Batman is written, it's supposed to be like that charismatic playboy type figure. But there's been
we
so many
needed that.
versions of that, bro.
Yeah.
There's been so many versions. So
Well,
there's fucking like so many renditions of that. So they're trying to take a new thing.
So okay, fair enough, and I agree with you there. It's kind of redundant. I wouldn't have asked for this movie to be made. There is another Batman movie that could be made, and this is the way they should make the new James Bond. You do old Batman. You do old, but not Christian Bale's version of old. That was no good. That didn't work. Old Batman. I know I've not read them, but my mate Terry is really into Batman. He says there's graphic novels. A grizzled old dude who's full of injury and pain, and he's just getting more and more violent and more bitter, and he's almost becoming a bad guy because he's full of painkillers and he's full of PTSD and head trauma, and that's interesting. Starting again with emo boy poetry writing
Richie,
Batman.
You're such a boomer, dude. Times
Okay, boomer.
Okay, boomer. You wanted like the old fucking George Clooney, bro. The times changed.
You gotta.
Batman's artistic and emo now, bro. That's how it goes, man.
You just have a different hero. Call him the Moose, or I don't know, the fucking Donkey Cock, or I don't know. Leave Batman in his tower.
Get it back in the good old days where he was an ultra-capitalist. And
that's the way the character's written, man. Except if you go back to Adam West's portrayal, that was cool as well. I really liked the camp, like slightly homoerotic Batman. I enjoyed that Batman. Yeah, I give the movie its due. For like 3 hours, I was not bored, and he got better. I was irritated by Robert Smith of The Cure Batman in the beginning. I was like, don't push this on me, please.
How do you not like that? That's the most badass version, bro.
Alfred, what are we doing? People need a vision of hope. Fuck you. Comb your fucking hair, you little cunt.
That's gonna be me as the Batman, bro.
Can't you be another creature? Can't you be the beaver?
Beaver, bro?
Can't you be something else? The frog! You're Frogman! Just leave Batman.
Idealistic or whatever. I'm not going to argue with Batman. I'm not even a fucking superhero fan, bro. The mood of the whole movie is amazing. But I like that doomerish, gothic, fucking dreary, hopeless
What is it with you kids and your obsession with sadness? I found I was introduced to Young Lean the other day.
Oh yeah.
And is that satirical rap or is that real?
It's kind of like he's inadvertently kind of started SoundCloud rap.
That's what I was going to say to you. I was listening to the music and I was like, oh, this is from 3 years ago, 8 years ago, 9 years ago. Auto-tuned, sad, mumbling, and I was like, it doesn't even sound. It sounds like it's like that Canadian kid Jolie, whatever his name was, John Jolly, when he used to do the Lonely Island, like pretend rap, satirical rap, and I was like, God, this kid really. He either could see into the future or he changed the genre completely.
He totally kickstarted a whole ass movement inadvertently. Like it's like this Gen Z meta irony that ends up being its own thing. It's no longer a parody of a thing. Like the seriousness of the irony becomes more prevalent. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you're kind of making fun of this thing to a point where it is seriously taken as its own thing in the end.
I get you. I think. I mean, he looks wrong, he sounds wrong, but it actually works, which is so. It's annoying for me because I like formulas, and I'm like, oh, I can see how this has worked, and I'm like, no, this shouldn't work, but it does. It's actually good. God, that's annoying.
But you know that he is a pioneer in a sense because everything now, especially on TikTok and anything Gen Z puts their hand on. It all has that tone of like meta irony. It's not like an obvious parody of something. It's kind of like ridiculous, making fun of something tongue in cheek, but not directly, but also taken seriously for how ironically dumb it is.
But that's the generational difference between like what am I, Gen X and millennial or Gen Z is for us, it was like they're the drug dealers, they're the criminals, they're the perpetrators, and this is like rap music for the drug users, for the victims.
Yeah.
Like, they're just like mumbling about how sad they are and how broken their life is. In my day, when I was a young man, you would rap about how big your dingus was and all the bitches and the gold and piles of cocaine everywhere that you couldn't walk around your house because of.
Yeah, but we're too broke to do that, bro.
A broken generation full of sadness and despair, with a Batman who's a goth emo kid who writes poetry.
Dude, Doomer Batman, man. It's fucking amazing, bro.
I liked I liked its consistency. I liked the 7-ishness of it.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that it really is a detective movie as well as being an action movie. The action scenes were good. The music was great. Did you pick up that they did the Imperial March?
Yeah,
you got
I
it.
heard.
Okay.
I heard the Star Wars soundtrack a little bit. Yeah,
a little bit. So instead of like a musician, that's it. So you're more of a you're a musician, and I'm not. But it was so the Star Wars one is dun 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 dun, dun, and then Darth Vader walks in his cape, and they did like dun dun dun. Dun 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 dun, and I'm like, you cheeky bastards, you ripped off John Williams, but just enough. And I liked that there were numerous scenes where you knew Batman was coming by the sound of his footsteps, and he comes like Darth Vader, and everybody, it's like the opening scene of A New Hope. Everybody's just full of terror of this ultra powerful being who represents darkness and vengeance and whatever. That side of it I liked. I kind of I liked ripping on it, but there were elements of it where I was like, no, there's something to this, and I hope it is a franchise. I hope they do it again.
But Richie, why did you like the Joker? Because he was also a ruined, depressive person.
We never got into this. I don't think I never consumed Joaquin Phoenix's Joker as a canonical Joker. Of all the characters from, I'm 2000 AD. I don't give a shit about Marvel or DC except for that one character, the Joker. I really loved the Joker when I was a kid.
Same.
And I never sort of took that film as canonical, as it wasn't my Joker. It was Joaquin Phoenix and whatever the director's name, who I've forgotten. It was their thing, and I respected it as a separate piece of art. And there's kind of like the mentally ill outsider, borderline terrorist Joker who was the leader of a big social movement. Yeah, I liked it. But if Batman had been in that movie, I probably would have complained.
You just didn't like the emo aesthetic. That's it. You're just biased against the emo.
No. If it was The Crow, I loved Brandon Lee's, and also like Neo in The Matrix is a little bit emo.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to defend Batman. I was just a bit like, is this really what this character is? I mean,
okay, well, you've had a previous context of who the Batman should be in your previous experience, so I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
For me, it was kind of like within a similar-ish line as the Joker movie, which kind of humanizes the brokenness of what's behind a villain or a superhero more, like a grounded, grittier version. That's actually the biggest reason why I don't really get into superhero movies, because they're too fucking outlandish, bro. I can't get into the story because it's just like building fucking blew up because the magic stone landed in your ass. You start vomiting like time travel rays, and I'm like, okay, that's
too much. I know exactly what
behind this.
Yeah.
You know,
well, you start to de-invest in the characters because you're like, well, they're not under any threat. They're all magic anyway.
That's what I mean. It's like I tried watching the fucking Spider-Man that's shot in Prague because it's shot in Prague.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's no person behind these people.
Yeah.
You know, so give me a fucking emo Batman that listens to The Cure. That way it's a little more believable.
If I can see him, okay, here's two things. I'm talking to the director of the franchise for the sequel. I want to see him really enraged. He can be emo as fuck, but I need to see him flip. Why is this guy beating people up? Robert Pattinson and that movie showed him as depressed. What? So show me him enraged, and I want to see him do the Playboy thing. Obviously, that's not for him, but he has to do it with gritted teeth. So where Christian Bale actually looked quite happy about it, show Robert Pattinson doing it but hating it. I need to see that. I don't know why. I think I needed. Batman's a split character, and I needed more of that two-facedness from it. And I really needed rage because I was like, why is floppy Robert Pattinson going to smash someone in the face?
I've watched a few film analysis because I'm a fucking nerd like that sometimes. But one thing they said that this is 2 years into his Batman development, so he's still trying to figure this fucking thing out. Yeah. And he hasn't really figured out the split just yet. So he's so traumatized that he doesn't even know how to separate himself with the new fucking outfit and him.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's supposedly the counterpoint there. But yeah.
I think I'd want to see that in the next movie a little bit more of that the dynamic tension between the two people he's being, and I need some. This is a violent, really quite sick character. I mean, as a hero. He is a bit of a nutcase, which was shown in the Zack Snyder movie actually, which everybody hated. But I watched the director's cut and I was like, this actually Ben Affleck in the Zack Snyder movie is kind of an asshole, but that's what Batman is. He's kind of he's a PTSD having loop-de-loop in a what is it called, a repetition compulsion. Yeah, I have to go soon because I have to go on my own YouTube channel and do the talkie talks to the people there.
You have a live stream after this live stream?
I have a live stream after this live stream, which was going to be short, and then I'm going to find some food and I'm going to put all of it in my face and mouth.
Okay, I was gonna interrupt you and say, would you prefer Prince's Joker? Have you seen that shit?
What? Prince as the Joker?
I think for one of the Batman movies, because I haven't even really seen it, was like in the 80s or some shit. And then he wrote one of the songs for
he did the whole soundtrack. I love that soundtrack. 1989 Batman with Michael Keaton. Prince did the whole soundtrack. Some of it he took the piss with, but the Bat Dance is a fucking great track, and I won't have anybody speak badly about it. Yeah, the whole album he did.
I'm sorry, I love Prince, but I thought that shit was kind of whack, bro.
It is. No, it is.
Prince like a Joker.
It's the worst thing he's ever done. But I love it. Kind of whack. Have you seen the video where the girls in the background are dressed as Batman flapping their fucking...
You have no credibility talking shit on the new Batman movie now after saying that.
It's a part of my childhood. Nobody can take it away. But I didn't know, if he played the Joker, that would be interesting.
He's dressed up as the Joker in one of the music videos, man.
Did he really?
Dude, he can't act for shit, man. He's terrible. He's a terrible actor, bro.
He was terrible. What was his own? Was it Purple Rain? Was his
Purple
own
Rain,
movie?
bro? I watched that shit because I didn't grow up in the 80s, and I'm like, this is awful, bro.
Terrible. It's terrible.
This is fucking awful.
There was another movie he did that was shot in black and white. That was the most pretentious load of bullshit ever. The title track
Cherry Moon or something.
Say that again.
Under the Cherry Moon.
Under a Cherry Moon, and the title track was "Sometimes It Snows in April," which is a good track. That's
a good song.
That's a really good track. But that film is like, oh, wow, you must be very wealthy, sir, to make a steaming pile of shit like this.
Dude, I was just like, I had to be born in live through 1989 to get Purple Rain, because I watched that shit and I was stoned out of my mind as well, and I still hated it. It was not good, bro.
It's not good. However, Bat Dance is Bat Dance. Ooh.
All right, I'll let you go, man. Off that note.
All right. Shall I sign us out?
Yeah. Do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time and for your attention, and we look forward to speaking to you all again very, very soon indeed.
Man.
Peace.
See you.